This is Justin.
And this is Haley. You're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize the conversations around money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties, welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast, episode 15.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we are so glad to have this conversation with you guys today. We have missed you guys. It's been about 2 weeks since our last episode, and we have been just stressfully and blissfully living through trauma here in Sonoma County. We recently, you guys had some more fires where we live, and luckily we didn't have to get evacuated, but we did have to pack go bags just in case, pull out all the important information, and make sure cash was easily accessible. Shout out to actually having cash on hand in an emergency fund. And so we took last week off to recover and to just kind of take care of ourselves emotionally. And it was nice, but we definitely missed you guys. So we are glad to be back.
We're so glad to be back. It felt weird taking a week off, but it was definitely necessary. Distance learning got the best of us last week. Plus, you know, these fires that we keep having in our community, they are rocking everyone's trauma just constantly over and over and over. And so we have to be the people to pick it up for the kids. You know, we talked about being, what did you say? It was like empathetically or compassion burnout.
Compassion fatigue.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you just get compassion fatigue through it all because you're hurting for so many people in your community that are either beat up by COVID or beat up by distance learning or beat up by fire evacuations, and you mentally can't carry anymore. It's like it's a lot of a burden. So
it was a lot, but we are really glad to be back. So thank you for being patient with us as we took a week off. We basically took a week off, and then the whole time I was pondering about what we were going to do with all the money that we had in the bank account, because we saved some extra money from September just from our earnings and then from your side hustle. Mm-hmm. And this is also kind of a little bit from August, right? Because we paid on student loans in early August.
Yeah, like a little bit from August too, but because of the vacuum and stuff.
Right. Okay. So we ended up paying $2,900 and some change on student loans. So that was really cool. High five.
So dope.
We have now paid off 11 and a half student loans this year. Can you believe that?
That's insane.
This year, 2020.
That's just crazy.
2020 is a wild one, but I mean, at least we're doing things right with our finances now.
Yeah, that's encouraging. For sure.
There are some positives here. And we got the chance a couple weeks ago to talk to our financial coach, Ryan, and we are actually going to be interviewing him next week for the podcast. So you do not want to miss that episode. We cannot wait to have this conversation with him and to share it with you guys. So please make sure you tune in next week for our interview with Ryan.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked to get down to talking to Ryan. I mean, we hype him on the podcast and stuff, and I want to share him with the world.
He's awesome.
Like, this is Ryan, you guys. This is the guy we're talking about. And I agree. I do think he's awesome. You know, I look at our goals list and what we've accomplished, and just his support and him being like, I bet you guys could do even more.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you could try this or try that. And it's not anything that's too crazy. Like, if people came and lived in our house with us, they wouldn't be like, oh, wow, they're going without so often or anything like that. They would just be like, oh, they're making mindful choices and intentional choices with their budget, and it makes it so they can pay off more student loans. So Ryan's a rock star, and I can't wait to share him with everybody that listens, especially our friends that I know, maybe hesitant to reaching out to a coach, but could use just even a few sessions for some support.
Definitely. Just some information about what financial coaches do.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not just someone sitting there telling you what to do with your money. That's so far from the truth. So I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I agree. And if you guys have questions that you're thinking you want us to throw at Ryan, we're going to be interviewing him this Thursday. So if you listen to this Wednesday morning when this drops, go ahead and DM us some questions that you're like, yo, I've always wanted to ask a financial coach this, and we will gladly throw them at him when we're sitting down to talk. I know that he'll be cool with us putting him on the spot and asking him some questions. Now, don't give us the whole rundown of your finances and stuff and have Ryan try and clean it up in 5 minutes because that's his job. So you got to sit down with him and work together. But if you got a question about what a financial coach does or how they make things work or whatever's on your mind, go ahead and DM us and we'll reach out to Ryan when we sit down with him.
So what are we talking about today?
Okay, I'm kind of hyped to talk about this because it's been on my mind for a little bit. When we first started the Instagram, we ran a story and then saved it, and it was all about millennial money and marriage checklist. And it's all about basically, do you combine finances? When do you combine finances? How do you combine finances? And it was obviously just, short snippets in the story. But this is a bigger topic that we've wanted to talk about because we've done it different than what we might suggest to others now. And I think that's important. You remember that a couple weeks ago on Twitter, my buddy said on like just out of nowhere on his thread, oh, all these people have separate bank accounts than their partners. I can't imagine what not trusting your spouse feels like. And like hell of people were upset about it, like super, super offended. And he's like asking people in the thread, like, okay, why do you have a separate bank account from your spouse? And they're like, oh, I run my business through it, or that's just the way we've always done it, so we never saw a need to combine, or, oh, I don't want them to check on the spending that I do for gifts or anything like that. And, I mean, I get it if you're like, oh, it's not a trust issue, it's something else, but I would argue that some of that does come down to trust, and you got to have a serious conversation with your spouse. So we thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we speak on what we would do, what we would suggest, and then some action steps people can take for if they choose to combine their finances with their spouse. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be speaking on today.
I've also gotten a lot of inquiries on Instagram about this specific topic. People are moving in with a boyfriend, or they just got engaged and they want to start a life together, but they are not necessarily getting married like today, but they're interested in, okay, what do I do to combine our finances? Do we just go all in? Do we wait? And so I think this conversation will be beneficial for a lot of people.
For sure. So let's start from the jump, and let's say you are just so hyped. You found this amazing person on
OkCupid.
On OkCupid, there you go. You found this amazing person on OkCupid. You guys have been dating for a little bit now, and you're thinking of combining finances. Now, you sound a lot like Haley and I. 3 months into you and I dating, we moved in together and decided, hey, now's the time we got to combine finances because we're going to be running all the household bills through the same spot. And we were very much in love very early on and knew that we wanted to be together. But now looking back and having a more firm grasp of finances and budgeting and safety, I would say that probably wasn't the right idea. And I know there's people out there right now thinking, but you just said if we live in the same house and we're paying the same bills, and I get it. It might make things easier short term, but it could make things bad in the long run. Luckily, you and I didn't have to go through it, but, before we got on, we were talking, and I was saying that my past relationship, the person I was with was vindictive and manipulative and toxic. And if I had combined bank accounts with that human being, it would be trouble when we tried to split up. And it would cause more issues for me than I needed when we split up. And we don't want that for anybody else. So we're going to just tell you that if you can avoid that, do so. Now, I see people pop up in Venmo all the time, and I see them paying their boyfriend or their girlfriend for electric or gas or whatever. And I'm like, let's go. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Just Venmo your partner some money. You know what I mean? Yeah, or rent. Like, straight up just Venmo them with a picture of a little house. Because that gets the job done. You don't need to be sharing bank accounts because it could get you in a world of hurt later on, I think.
I shared bank accounts with some roommates before you and I moved in. And there were originally 4 of us on the bank, and then one person moved, and then there were just 3 of us, and then we added another roommate. And that was not a full-blown shared bank account. That was the bank account that you direct deposited the rent and the utilities, and that's it. And I think we see, this is actually what happened to us. I think we see people going that route where they're like, okay, we're going to make a joint account where we just have all the money come out for everything that we share, right? Groceries, whatever. But then it seems like you keep putting extra money in the account, and then everything starts coming from the account, and then you're like, well, whatever, let's just combine completely. And when it was 4 of us roommates, the only money going into it was the rent money, and that's it. So I don't think there was much room for anyone really screwing anyone over, because it was like we would transfer the money in immediately and it would get taken out. But I think it's a really, really slippery slope when you're with a partner, because it's so easy to fall into the, I'm going to go shopping and put all this in there. Well, let's just use the shared account. That's exactly what happened to us. And then you and I went from having our own separate Wells Fargo accounts with a joint account, where we would just put money in the joint account and spend it. And then all of a sudden it was more and more and more money in the joint account. And then we just kind of stopped using our own personal accounts.
Yeah.
And I want to tell this side story. Back when we did have our separate accounts, I had my own personal account, you had your personal account, and then we had our joint account. There was this very, very strange encounter I had with this guy out in front of Starbucks one day. I just told Justin this story like a month ago, and he's like, you're ridiculous. But this guy was selling meat like in bulk out of his truck, like kind of like a Schwann's person, but like out of a truck selling.
You don't remember the company? It must have been like Golden Gate Meat or something like that.
It was legit.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the story makes it sound super sketch, but he was selling
It is sketch, but it's still, yeah.
He was selling a bunch of meat in bulk, and I ended up buying it, like $300 worth of meat, and then I came home, and Justin was like, where did all of this meat come from? And I totally lied, because I was embarrassed that I spent that much money. And I was like, oh, someone just, like, gave it to me. And he was like, well, you can't just eat meat that someone just gave you. You have to, like, get rid of it. And I didn't tell him the truth, and then we, like, got rid of all of it.
That is so wild to
But
me,
that
dude.
is what happens when you're trying to, like, cover stuff up.
That's just crazy. Like, that's just wild. So if you are in a relationship, then you don't need to be buying random street meat with your partner's money. You can have your own separate bank accounts, and if you want to buy the street meat and bring it home, and your partner says, that's really weird, you bought a bunch of street meat, but luckily you did it with your own money, then you're all good. So we're going to recommend that you not combine finances if you're in a relationship. But if you're married, moving into marriage, you've locked it down, it is written in law that you are together. We are going to recommend that you combine finances as soon as possible, immediately. And the reason is you work better when you are a team. Haley and I have had profound success this year. Profound success. And it's because we've been a team every single step of the way. There has not been one single decision that one of us has made without the other one either right next to us or in close proximity so we can have an immediate talk about it. And that's just success in team form. The best teams find success because they're working together. So we're going to recommend immediately that you do that.
Another reason why you want to combine finances, and this one's really awkward and uncomfortable to talk about. It's all about the ladies here. But if a woman has their spouse pass away, or if they have their spouse leave them, all those things they will rock your world. It's just devastating. But if you are a stay-at-home mom and you do not have a shared bank account with your partner, and then all of a sudden they're gone, you have no money, and you do not want to be left on your worst day without access to your money. And so it needs to be accessible at all times to both people. And that's not to say that people can't be crazy and just empty your bank account, but you just need to protect yourself and everyone in the situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things out there where people say, like, oh, my husband makes the money, but then he gives me an allowance. And I'm like, you're not his kid. Why do you use that language? Your husband gives you an allowance? No. Being a stay-at-home mom is 10 times harder. I mean, the 1 week that you were distance learning teaching and I was with Calliope and Franklin and my students were evacuated and I couldn't go outside, I wanted to pull my eyes out. It is so much work. I mean, granted, we had a puppy as well and I couldn't go outside. So I was stuck, in the living room so you could teach. But it was hectic. And I mean, stay-at-home moms, they're working so hard. This idea of an allowance is just gross. It's just weird to me that people even use language like that. It's just odd.
Yeah, like you need to pay the rent and I pay the utilities, but we both live here. Or like, oh, you only get $500 a month and that's it.
Yeah, like it's just weird. And it comes to that idea of like you don't trust your partner to spend appropriately, or I don't know. It's just a weird phrase to me, the allowance idea.
Another thing that I think is very weird is when people think of marriage and finances as 50-50. Like, I make $60,000 a year and you make $90,000 a year, and regardless, we are 50-50. So we're going to split our rent, or we're going to split the mortgage. We're going to split the internet bill. But one person makes more money than the other. Shouldn't it just be together? Like one person, big pile of cash, like everyone shares it?
Yeah, that's pretty strange. And I think that's a bigger conversation they got to have as a couple. That's just kind of odd. Like you're expecting your spouse to contribute just as much, but it should totally be just working together as a team. I mean, that's a great example right there of why you just combine bank accounts and take care of it together as a team. You're already married. If you split up, taking half your stuff anyways. So you might as well just combine it and get it over with, than trying to do some ratioed proportion based off. It's just weird. That's just very strange. Very, very strange.
I have heard of people doing it based off of income, but that seems like way more math than I would ever want to handle. Like if I made 50,000 and you made 70,000, then we would base it off the percentages of the income or whatever. But that seems like a big fat confusion.
Yeah, why am I going to do math every single month other than just put it in a bank account and the math is what does it say on that bill and I'm going to pay that because we're together as a team. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're listening to this and you're like, we do that, sweet. I hope it's working for you and I hope you're on top of your bills. That's awesome. But if you make a budget together, if you sit down and write out an actual budget and the money's just in a pot all together, then you're communicating and working through that budget appropriately and things are all good. So it just streamlines everything to work together on your budget, work together with your money. It makes things a little bit easier, I think. And there's this other concept that I really wanted to chat about because we both had birthdays recently, and people on my buddy's thread on Twitter were saying like, oh, I want to be able to buy a gift for my wife and not have her be an NYPD detective and figure it out. And it's just so weird to me that, like, that's your worry. I mean, I just told you, don't look at the bank account for, like, 3 days. That's it. Just a couple days. Please don't look at the bank account. I'm sure enough charges will get in there that it's going to be buried. And if the worst thing my spouse does is looks and sees that I've bought them something off of Etsy, oh, no. Oh, no. It's just weird to me. Like, I mean, I get it if somebody was like, oh, like, but I bought a Louis Vuitton bag and it's going to show up as Louis Vuitton. Okay, sure. That might be a little odd. But to separate your bank accounts totally and then to argue that it's because you don't want your partner to snoop, it's like all you're doing is asking to look shady. I don't know. That's just how I feel about all that. Like, because it's a bag one day for your spouse, and then the next it's I went and bought $300 worth of street meat.
You're never going to forget that, are you?
I just think it's really funny. I totally forgot about it, but until you brought it back up. So I guess I will forget about it until you remind me again, and then I'll get some laughs. But I mean, yeah, it's seriously, that's just kind of odd to me. Like, just tell your partner don't look at the bank account. Or, maybe you get a shared bank account, and then in the savings side or another aspect of the card, you buy gifts from that spot. And so it's like, okay, cool. I bought you something. You can see how much it costs, sure. But, I don't want you to find the store. And then if somebody finds it and sees like how much something cost and then they choose to do an internet back search to find out, how much. Oh,
that's creepy.
Yeah. Like that. Okay. Again, back to communication. Y'all got to talk about some stuff because that's just weird. That's just creepy.
That's another issue.
Who likes to ruin surprises like that? That's just weird.
People that really don't like surprises.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I ruin TV shows when we watch them. I look them all up beforehand.
That really pisses me off.
I just can't. I just need control in my life. I can't get invested in a character if I know they're gonna die three episodes later.
Then why are you mad at these people for looking up their birthday presents and Christmas presents?
Because back searching the price of a gift that your spouse got you is totally different than looking up, who dies on some show. In fairness, I didn't do it for Sons of Anarchy.
You didn't?
I didn't.
That was all
Wait,
authentic?
Nope, that's a lie.
You did?
I knew because somebody spoiled a part on Twitter, so I had to look. I had to see. So I did know that one person was going to die on Sons of Anarchy. And if you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, spoiler alert, some people die in the show.
A
A lot of people die. Anyways, it's a phenomenal show, too. If anybody wants to have a separate podcast episode on Sons of Anarchy, we can do that. But nonetheless, get a separate side of the card and buy your gifts from that. Don't do any creepy back searches. It's just strange.
There's so many ways around it, too.
There are.
You could have a family member buy it, and then you could Venmo them.
There you
or
go.
you could, if you are a credit card user, you could use a different account for it and then pay that off that month. There are ways to get around it. Or my favorite is to buy things on Amazon, so it just shows up as Amazon.
There it is.
Because everything I buy is from Amazon. So it wouldn't flag you if I brought you a gift from Amazon.
No, not at all. I'd be like, oh, there's another Amazon charge that I'm just going to stay away from. I don't know what this is. It's either for our daughter or for the house or something else. I don't know.
You would have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go buy you something tonight on Amazon. You're not going to have any idea.
Oh, no.
But it's in the budget.
I hope it's not something cool.
It will be cool.
Good.
We don't waste money these days.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, if you're going to be married and combining your finances, which we recommend, there's some really important steps that you want to take to do this. And we're saying this because we've gone through a few of them on our own, and it sucked. And I don't even think it was when we were quite married yet. It was when we were engaged, but it really was a bummer. So the first thing you got to do is you got to talk to each other and decide, hey, are you down to combine finances now that we're married? Are you down? And that conversation needs to happen in really good premarital counseling. You got to get on the same page financially. That was huge for us.
And I do want to add that just by combining a bank account, that's not the end of it. Combining finances and being married and having it all together as one pot means that the money that Justin makes from his side hustle is also my money. Everything that I make is also his. Like 1 month, if I'm on unemployment and making no money and he's making all the money, it's still my money. Like everything is completely shared. So it's not just we're going to go get a shared bank account and then we still play the game of like, oh, you paid last time. Ha ha ha, I'll pay this time. You share bank accounts.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who pays because everything's both of yours. Same thing with your rent, your mortgage, everything. So that really, the mindset needs to happen of every single thing is both of yours. There's no me anymore, it's we. And the marriage counseling was huge. We did that with the guy that married us, and finances are the number one reason people get divorces in America. And so if you can tackle that, then you are well on your way for a happy, successful marriage for years to come.
Mm-hmm. And you got to talk about it ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So then when you finally do decide that you're going to combine bank accounts, you got to decide which bank you're going to go with. Am I going to go with my partner's? Are we going to go with mine? Are we going to get a brand new bank because we're moving to a new town and we're going to join a credit union? Like, these are things you actually want to look into and talk about. There's been issues with banks and some of the ways that they've done some of their customers wrong. There's benefits and there's negatives to all different banks. And so you actually want to do your research. You've got to look up who you're actually banking with. What can they provide you? What are some cool services they have? You know, you never know when life gets you down. Do they have overdraft protection? What's their savings amount on their, savings? What are the future options for kiddos? That's really important stuff to look at. And luckily, we have a great bank because it's a local credit union that provides awesome resources and really goes out of their way for their customers. And I'm really glad that we switched from a big bank locally to a actual credit union that's locally owned.
Yeah, we had a situation with a big bank where one of our accounts got hacked or something.
It was yours, remember, through Zelle.
Yeah, through Zelle. And it said that April Woods transferred $2,500 from our bank account to hers or something like that. Or no, it said that I paid April Woods that much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a notification, and I was working at the time, and I don't even know who April Woods is. My name was Woods at the time. This was before we got married. And it was just this huge fiasco. Turns out, thankfully, we had enough money in the bank account to cover our mortgage because this specific bank didn't give us back that $2,500 that got fraud wire transferred. They didn't give it back for I think it was a month. It was way too long. Completely unacceptable. And that's actually why we switched banks.
I completely agree. Totally unacceptable. And the cool thing is that the local bank that we switched to reached out to me one morning because our account had been flagged for fraud as well. There was somebody that had gotten our account number and spent something at a gas station in Kansas. And they reached out to me, and within an hour, they had stopped the card, refunded us the payment, and were putting it through their fraud protection. I mean, it was that fast. I was substitute teaching that morning. I got a text, and on my break, I was able to wrap it up in 15 minutes before I had to go back to teaching. It was insane how fast it was. We were able to get back to the bank a couple hours later and get brand new cards printed there, all good.
Was it the same time when I went and got you a new card and you weren't even there?
Yes.
Yeah. That was also cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have all these protections and things in place, but as the spouse, I was able to go get him a new card because he was working without him being there. But I know a lot of the bigger banks would be like, that's absolutely not happening until this person is here in person with their ID and all sorts of hoops. But there was no way you were going to get to the bank by the time they closed.
Yeah, absolutely
For
not.
several days, probably a week.
Yeah, absolutely not. That was pretty cool.
The next thing on the checklist is that you need to go through your bank account, both people's bank account, for probably 2 months and check every single thing that's going in automatically and out automatically. So all of your direct deposits and all of your auto drafts, because you need to take time, set those up, call those people, set them up on the new account, and then make triple sure that you actually have everything in the new account. We actually had a situation when we first transferred over to the credit union where we had our gas and electric bill. It's always PG&E.
It always is,
One
damn it.
thing after another. PG&E, we hate them. Anyway, PG&E was synced up with the old bank, and it was on auto draft, so we just didn't even notice that it was not going through. But I think it was 3 months worth of auto drafts that kept bouncing. Finally, they sent us a paper statement. You think they would have done this beforehand, but finally they sent us a paper statement saying, hey, you're 3 months late on your all your bills, your power and everything's going to be shut off if you don't pay this. It was $600, and so that was really frustrating. Then we finally went and switched it over to the new bank account, and we got punished because they wouldn't even let us sign up for auto draft for a year. So we still pay it by a check now because they suck.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. Or we'll just call in and use our debit card.
Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. I mean, I guess it's kind of nice if you're somebody out there who's struggling right now to make your bills. PG&E might give you a couple months because they're so terrible with their services.
Takes them 3 months to catch on.
To figure you out. So good luck on that. But seriously, it was 3 months, and it was wait, what? And it was all because we had to switch these cards over and stuff. So.
And we would have noticed that had we been budgeting, but we had no sense of a budget at all during that time. So it was just what do you mean we haven't paid the PG&E in 3 months?
Yeah.
We haven't even noticed.
I wish we could show people our budgets from back in the day. They were really nice Google Sheets of this is what we spend. And it was just total bullshit, arbitrary numbers that were this is what we spend on groceries. And it's wait a minute, we're
$200
double this.
a month.
Yeah. So stupid. But
Our
so
electric
funny.
bill is $100 a month.
Yeah. Psych, here's your $300 bill. But seriously, that's, again, another episode. Nonetheless, make sure you're taking care of those auto payments, those auto drafts out of your account. They got to be on the right card or else you're going to get in trouble. So if you combine bank accounts with your partner, make sure that you know what auto drafts are coming from, which account is going to be the one that's going to be given up. And the final thing you want to keep in mind when choosing whose account you're going to use is think about who's been vested in their bank longer if you choose to stay with that bank. If you're somebody who uses credit cards, again, we're not advocating for it, but some banks, if you've been using their credit card for a long time, it's going to be a little bit better to stay there rather than leave and try and start credit with another account. If you've been vested in them for a long time, it's going to look a little bit better on your credit reports. You're definitely going to want to stay there. So keep those in mind. If you're thinking of combining bank accounts, which you should, we absolutely advocate for it, then keep those aspects in mind and those action steps as you go to do so. And if you need to reach out to us, DM us on Instagram. Let us know, hey, I need some help, chat with my spouse, getting them on board. We're here to chat and tell you how it's worked for us. We're not going to tell you what you need to do in your household, but we will absolutely give you anecdotal experience of how combining our bank accounts in conjunction with getting on a written budget and communicating about finances has helped us immensely. And I will say, too, and I'm sorry if this embarrasses you, honey, but speaking about finances is one of the most difficult things you can do with your partner. And I promise you, your communication in all aspects of your relationship will go up when you begin to openly communicate about finances. I feel so much more comfortable talking to you about anything in our marriage, be it finances, family, intimacy, parenting, all of it. I feel way more comfortable talking to you about it because we've had some very hard money conversations.
I think I totally agree, and that would never embarrass me because we're out here on talking to people from 28 countries all around the world, all about all of our financial dirt. But yeah, I think the money conversations are the hardest ones that we've had. Yeah. And you have to do it. You cannot tiptoe around them. They need to be had. They are very important. Like I said, keep a post-it on your mirror. Finances are the number one reason for a divorce. You can fix that. You don't have to have that be the reason why your marriage fails. I hope your marriage doesn't fail. So make it fail-proof by doing certain things to make sure that you do succeed.
Yes, like working together as a team. Combine
Teamwork.
those finances, you guys. So that's going to be a wrap on this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we're super glad that you stuck around to have this conversation with us, and we're so proud to be a part of this community that shares their bank accounts with their spouse.
Let's go. You've got this, Toasties. Happy budgeting. Thank you for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend. We'd love to continue building our listening community.
If you're interested in speaking more with a financial coach, hit up our coach Ryan at MeFinanciallyFree on Instagram. Use the promo code HELP50 in the consultation notes section to receive 50% off.